was predestined to be seen as a monster. When I came from my mother's womb, the hospital room bore witness to a newborn with 12 fingers and 11 toes. They call this polydactyly. When I googled the term polydactyly, the browser asked, "Did you mean pterodactyl?" By that, I'm sure I was predestined to extinction. My screams fossilized and called history as if my history could be recorded so easily. I never see people like me in the history books. Authors think as long as they mention the man with the dream and how this country eventually realized that slavery was kind of really messed up, it's enough to satisfy the hunger in our starving bellies. Some representation is better than none. At least, that's what I've always been told. I learned that when something is broken, it is to be disposed of instead of trying to fix it. In the 4th grade, I jumped out of a swing, landed wrong, dislocated my right pinky toe. When I awoke from surgery, the doctor explained to me it was too hard to reconstruct the bone, so they ultimately decided to take it off. Now that I only have 9 toes, I guess that still makes me a monster. A monster that feels things. You see, my nerve endings are all intact. Essentially, it's as if the toe is still there, a phantom limb that still feels pain. Being this black is like being a phantom limb, invisible to everyone else but me. But this was never supposed to be a poem about what black feels like. Shouldn't be me standing here telling you that I was more afraid of my little sister for wanting to go to college in Baltimore because of the color of her skin and not because she's in a wheelchair and has no family that far east to look out for her. No, this shouldn't be me telling you that when I watched a 7-minute video of a white cop dragging a young black girl across the grass by her hair, I couldn't help but feel her pain. As I watched him kneeling on her back for 2 minutes, it was my airway that started to close. This fictive kinship is what black feels like. But this was never supposed to be a poem about what black feels like. This was just supposed to be me telling you how I was born with extra fingers that the doctors didn't know what to do with, so they decided to take it off because it was abnormal to them. And this is probably not normal to you. Normal is funny. You see, in the black community, extra digits are normal. Functional even. To cut it off is to say one can do without, which is to say not necessary, which is to say there are parts of me not worth keeping. Thank you. So, for those of you that have never attended a poetry reading or a poetry slam, that is a little preview of what you typically would see in those scenarios and those scenes. So before I get started, I just want to give you a little background about who I am and what I do. So, as Dr. Land said, I'm NicoleTyler. I'm currently a sophomore studying English with a minor in psychology at Westminster College. And I grew up in Logan City, Utah, which is about 90 minutes north of here. So I moved to Salt Lake about 2 years ago when I started to do college, and in that 2 years I have found a love for the spoken word poetry community and the slam community that we have growing here in Salt Lake City. A year and a half ago, I was recruited by a fellow Westminster student, Willie Palomo, who was like, "Come do this poetry thing with me, it's gonna be great." And I was like, okay, let's go. What I didn't know is that in doing that, I would actually be given a space where I can bring and express things to the forefront that I'd never explored or thought possible before. I last year was able to go to CUPSI, which is the Collegiate Union Poetry Slam Invitational. And basically what that is, it's this national slam for all of the college students in the area, and by area I mean like the United States, even Canada, to come together and compete with this spoken word. But it was more than just competing. It was a way for all of us to just embrace the poetry and what we had to say and the work that was happening over the course of 4 days. And it was at CUPSI that I realized I can actually take my love for being poetic and being a creative writer, as well as theater, and mix it with my want to be socially aware and active. Because going to CUPSI, I heard poems about feminism, I heard poems about growing up in war zones, I heard poems about growing up in Chicago, growing up in just spaces that were not considered livable. And it brought such a new light to those issues that we'd already seen, that I'd been seeing and reading about for so long. And it made me realize, whoa, I can do this too. I want to be able to take what they're doing and apply it to my life. And so that made me want to take my own lived experience and put it on the page. And then because I'm weird competitively, I was like, I'll do it for a competition aspect, have 5 people in the audience tell me what they think about it, but ultimately I'm able to still be part of the dialogue and the conversation in a way that benefits me. So since doing CUPSI, I realized that I liked the competition aspect and have done IWIPS, which is the Individual World Poetry Slam. I did that October of 2015. I also, 2 weeks ago, just got done competing at the Women of the World Poetry Slam, where I represented Salt Lake City and took 9th in the world. So that's kind of cool. And all of the work that I did to get there were pieces that combined my identity as a person of color with what's currently going on with social justice and current events, and my take and understanding on that. So you may be asking yourself, why poetry? And the answer is simple. I'm a college student and don't actually have time that it takes to be part of these larger national efforts to bring awareness to social activism, what's happening. So it's a way for me to still do my school, but also do something that I love. But also, I reach a different audience. I reach you. I reach people that want to hear people share their secrets for 3 minutes at a time, but they're also going to walk away hearing what I have to say, which is my experience that pertains to this social activism. So when I write poems, such as Polydactyly, for instance, the poem that I opened with, I did not write that with the intention of, let's be socially active and aware when I do this. It was actually supposed to be a poem that my friend was like, let's write a poem about your toe. Like, you've never written about that. It's kind of funny and kind of weird. I'm like, you're right, it is. So I did a poem about it, started it, and then I realized that this experience of having a phantom limb is actually very similar to the experience of being a person of color, and it's a tangible way to explain that to somebody that is in fact not a person of color, so therefore they wouldn't understand what that feels like. And as I continued doing this writing process, I found myself not just delving with this metaphor of this is what black feels like, but also extending that to this is what black feels like when you put it in the context of social events. Currently, or when I was writing that, the entire issue with Baltimore was happening, and there were lots of riots, and the treatment of people of color was very violent. It was following Ferguson, and I didn't know how to process that. That was not something I really knew how to process, but I felt the grief. I felt I need to be here for my community. How do I do that? How do I stand in solidarity with people that are miles away from me on another coast? And so poetry became that outlet for me, became that space to do so. And that moved further into after, unfortunately, being sucked into watching video footage of what happened in McKinney with the pool party gone wrong. And I didn't know how to process it. I hadn't processed it, and then suddenly I was writing this poem, and my poem was processing it for me. And it was enough. It was enough to bring me closure. It was enough to feel like I had done my part, and it was also enough to be part of that activism in a way that was on my own time without compromising my academics, as well as just my own mental health and what that looks like. So I've since decided to turn this into, let's continue exploring my identity, let's continue doing all of these things while seeing how I fit within this bigger context, this larger picture. I'm a firm believer that we need to care about issues that don't necessarily impact us right away, or that we can't necessarily see the impact on us completely. So say something is happening like what happened in Ferguson, we're like, well, we're here in Utah, how does that impact me? It does. It impacts you because it impacts people around you. It's impacting all of these communities that are building off of each other, and eventually you will meet someone that has been either directly or indirectly impacted by this event. And so what I've started trying to do is, let's be socially aware and socially active and conscious about these things from the beginning. I'm going to take a minute and ask you, you all have a passion or something that you're really interested in, right? Let's think of like an issue or a cause for a minute. Now, while you're thinking about that, also think about your favorite forms of media, the way that you receive information about these issues. Do you like watching news articles? Do you like reading news articles? Do you like watching things? Do you like hearing it? Do you like portraying it with your body through dance? How is it that you like to receive those things? Now, for the remainder of this talk, I want you to think about how you can take this issue that you care about and mix it with the way that you like to express yourself, whatever that may be. For me, it's obviously poetry, social justice, specifically pertaining to race and police activism and brutality. Now, it's not going to be the same for you. Actually, I would encourage it not to be the same, because I don't write, well, I do write, but I don't write like novels or short stories, and I don't dance, and I'm not doing these research papers or things like that. But these issues need to be talked about outside of a field that is not just what you're comfortable in or what we receive it in. Scrolling through your Facebook feed is great, but it is not enough. After a while, it just becomes too concentrated. We see it all the time, but we're not taking it and doing anything. In inviting you to think about how you can be part of this dialogue, you are able to bring a new perspective to something that we've already been hearing about for so long, be it in a story, a video, a piano without words, anything of that sort. You're able to do that. And what you're really able to do is continue the dialogue in a way that isn't just academic or isn't just with your friends that have the same political beliefs as you. It's a way to continue that, which is why I do what I do. Every time I go to a slam, which is a way for me to be an activist on my own time, and it's a lot more feasible that way, because giving up 2 to 3 hours of my night 1 to 2 times a month is a lot more logical and reasonable for me as a student currently than to be planning rallies, protests, demonstrations every week that I could go to and be a body count for, or I could write that research paper that was due, so I don't get behind just because I care about something. And so, in doing so, I've still been able to do my goal. I am able to be an activist on my own time. Yes, a poem is only 3 minutes and 10 seconds, but I guarantee you in that 3 minutes and 10 seconds, I am going to give all of my energy that I would be putting in activism elsewhere in that moment, and I'm going to leave it on the stage. And I still get the desired outcome. And my outcome is a dialogue. It's a conversation. After every slam, I, without fail, will have 1, 2, maybe even more people come up to me and say, "Thank you. I needed that. I've never thought of it that way. Thank you for sharing your story." In sharing my story, I'm able to conceptualize thoughts and ideas that otherwise wouldn't be done. When I'm talking about notions of race or or issues surrounding violence, I'm able to do so and conceptualize it, because when I tell you, no, this is what this feels like, when I say, as a person of color, it feels like I'm invisible, except I'm not, because I see it, but everyone else pretends that they don't see it, you get it. It's not so much just this, oh, well, we're talking about this race thing, or it's not happening because it's not, like, it's happening, but it's not happening here, so it's not real. It becomes real. I am able to be a connection to my audience. I'm able to help them understand something that otherwise wouldn't be understood. So I do this through stories. I do this through poems. I do this just by having the dialogue and the conversation. And I want to invite you, as my audience, to think of how you can aid to that dialogue and that conversation. What have you experienced that is actually stemming from a larger issue? An issue that we're still not talking enough about, and an issue that you could bring more light to. Now, I'm going to close you out with a poem. And this poem that I'm closing you out with is one that took me a very long time to write, because I didn't know how to process things that were happening around us. It was happening too fast. Everyone had their own opinion on it. Nobody really knew where to go. They felt one way or another. And this is how I felt about it. So I'm going to close you out with it, and then I hope that we can continue the dialogue. Welcome to the after party. All of the big names are here tonight. Mike Brown is taking shots with Trayvon, who just put Skittles in to spike the sweet tea. Eric Garner is enjoying the taste of air as he buys rounds at the Oxygen Bar. Sandra doesn't worry about signaling before she merges onto the dance floor. Rakia Boyd is up next for karaoke. and she's waiting for us to say her name. Tanisha Anderson and Natasha McKenna have their hands up, but only because the DJ is playing their jam, and Freddie Gray is standing in the corner, no longer paralyzed with fear. I'm afraid we've reached the capacity of this poem. This list is too long, it's getting crowded. If you would like to enter this party, please have your hashtag ready to show at the door. Thank you.